You reached for someone, and they looked at you like you were speaking a language they'd never heard. And you smiled. You nodded. You said yeah, no, totally, and changed the subject. And you went home and sat with it, the way you always sit with it, alone, in the quiet, turning the experience over in your hands like something you can't put down and can't explain, and can't stop carrying. And the thing is, you've done this more than once. You've had the experience, you've felt the weight of it, and you've thought, okay, this time I'm going to try to say it out loud. This time I'm going to find the words. And you picked someone safe, someone who loves you, someone who you genuinely believed might be able to receive it. And you took the breath, and you opened your mouth, and you tried. And they listened. They were kind about it. They nodded in that careful way people nod when they're trying to be supportive. But their eyes did something. You know the thing their eyes did. That slight glaze. That gentle, patient smile that is saying that's so interesting out loud, and I think you've lost it a little underneath. Both at the same time, kindly, which is somehow worse than if they just said the second thing out loud. Because you can argue with unkindness. You can push back against someone who tells you directly that they think you're being dramatic. You cannot argue with a caring smile. You cannot push back against someone who is being so genuinely, warmly, carefully supportive while understanding absolutely nothing you just said. And you sat with that. And then the doubt started, quietly at first. Maybe I'm projecting. Maybe I'm reading too much into things. Maybe this is just anxiety dressed up as meaning. Maybe I'm not as perceptive as I think I am. Maybe I want this to be real so badly that I'm manufacturing connections that aren't actually there. Maybe the smile was right. Maybe I have lost it a little. And then something happens. Something so specific, so precise, so utterly undeniable that the doubt just goes quiet. Not because you convinced it, not because you argued it down, it just evaporates. And you know again. You're back. The knowing is solid underneath you again. And then slowly, slowly, the cycle starts over. That cycle. The knowing and the doubting and the knowing again. That's what's been exhausting you. Not the experiences themselves. The experiences are almost the easy part. The cycle. The aloneness of the cycle. The fact that you can't even explain to someone why you're tired, because explaining the tiredness requires explaining everything that came before it. And you've already tried that, and you already know how it lands. Okay, so that's where the cards are starting today. And I'm not going to ease into this because I don't think you need ease right now. I think you need someone to just say the thing directly. The one who already knows, yeah. Okay, this one. This is you. And what I'm getting immediately, before I even fully settle in, is that you have been carrying something for a long time. Something without a clean name. Something you've tried to put into words, and every single time you open your mouth to say it, something gets lost in translation. Like the experience exists in one place, and language exists somewhere else, and they don't quite touch. And you keep trying to build a bridge between them, and the bridge keeps coming out wrong. Too small, too vague, not capturing the actual thing. And you've tried to close that gap with people you actually trusted. You picked your moment. You chose someone safe. You took the breath. And they listened. They were kind. But their eyes did the thing. That gentle glaze. That patient smile. And you went home, and you sat with it, and you wondered if maybe you were the problem. You're not the problem. What's happening to you is not a phase. It's not sensitivity. It's not wishful thinking or an overactive imagination or any of the soft, gentle corrections people have tried to offer you when they didn't have a better answer. Something in you has actually shifted. Structurally, the way you process reality has reorganized itself, and the people around you don't have a reference point for it yet. They're not dismissing you to be cruel. They simply cannot locate what you're describing on any map they currently have. That's the whole reason. That's it. Nothing is wrong with you. You just got there first. You seem like you're speaking in riddles to people who've never heard the language. But you're not speaking in riddles. You're just further along. What keeps returning, okay, So this one comes in, and it's confirming exactly this. This is not new. This has been building in you for a long time. And I want to be specific about what I mean when I say something has shifted, because I think you deserve specificity right now. You don't need more vague spiritual language. You need someone to name the actual things. So, the first thing, the coincidences. Except they stopped feeling like coincidences a while ago, didn't they? They feel like reality is doing something on purpose. Like you ask a question in your head, a real question, something you're genuinely sitting with, and within hours, sometimes within minutes, something answers it. Not vaguely. Specifically, a message from someone you were just thinking about. A stranger saying exactly the right thing at exactly the right moment. You turn something on at random, and the first sentence out of someone's mouth is the precise thing you needed to hear. You walk somewhere without a plan, and something is waiting for you there. You open a book to a random page, and it describes your exact situation so precisely it reads like someone wrote it for you specifically. And you know you can't prove it. You know if you describe it out loud, it sounds like confirmation bias. It sounds like you're connecting dots that aren't really connected. It sounds like someone who wants to find meaning so badly that they're inventing it. You know that. But you also know, you genuinely, deeply know, there's a difference between forcing patterns because you want them and recognizing patterns because they're actually there. And what you've been experiencing, you know which category it's in. You know. And here's the thing about this that nobody talks about. You've noticed that it doesn't work when you're not being honest. When you're forcing it, when you're trying to use it to confirm something you want to be true, rather than something that is true, it goes quiet. The line goes dead. The coincidences stop. And that has taught you something about integrity, about being straight with yourself in a way that most people never have to be, because they're not receiving this kind of feedback. You've had to become ruthlessly honest with yourself just to stay calibrated. You seem like you overthink things to people watching from the outside. You're not overthinking. You're being precise. There's a real difference. The signal comes through, yeah. Okay, this one. This is the communication card, and it's sitting right on top of everything I just said. And what I'm getting with this one is that the signal, whatever you want to call it, the knowing, the guidance, the synchronicities, it has its own intelligence. It's not random. It's responsive. It responds to your honesty. It responds to your alignment. And when you are genuinely in that place, when you're not performing, not forcing, not trying to manufacture a result, it moves. Clearly, unmistakably, and you've learned to feel the difference between when you're in that place and when you're not. Which means you've developed a kind of internal compass that most people genuinely do not have access to. You seem inconsistent to people who observe you changing direction. You're not inconsistent. Your compass is just more refined than theirs. You can feel things they can't feel yet. Okay, wait. There's something I'm getting for some of you specifically, and I need to say it. Maybe this is a person you loved, an ex, a friend, a family member, a coworker, someone who was supposed to be in your corner. And what happened between you wasn't just a falling out. You could see it coming. You could feel the pattern underneath the surface before it broke through. You knew you actually knew what this person was going to do before they did it. You saw it, you felt it, and you watched it happen anyway, because you couldn't stop it and you couldn't explain to them what you were seeing without sounding like you were attacking them. And nobody around you understood why you weren't more surprised when it happened, or more angry, or why you didn't feel vindicated when you turned out to be right. Because it doesn't feel like winning when you can see that clearly. It just feels heavy. Like knowing something you never asked to know and never found a way to put down. You seem cold to people who watch you not react the way they expect. You're not cold. You're already 3 steps ahead in a conversation everyone else thinks just started. That's not distance. That's the cost of awareness. And it's a cost you pay quietly. Every single time. Without anyone seeing you pay it. The weight of seeing this one. This is that cost. And it's specific. It's loneliness, yeah, but a particular kind. Not I don't have people. You might have people everywhere around you. It's the people around me are living in a slightly different version of reality than I am, and I don't know how to close that gap without making them feel like I'm saying they're less than. And you're not saying that. You would never say that. You know that what you have isn't superiority. It's just a different frequency. But the gap is real. And managing the gap. Navigating every conversation with one part of your brain, monitoring how much of yourself you can safely show, that has become a full-time job that nobody sees you doing. You seem easy to be around. And you are exhausted. If this is landing for you, drop 333 in the comments. I read them. It matters who's here with this. Let me keep going because the cards are not done. The dreams. Okay, the dreams. I need to go here because the energy is pulling hard toward this right now. When did your dreams change? Because something shifted. At some point, they stopped being about your day, your fears, your old memories cycling through while you sleep. They started being something else. More like you weren't just dreaming about your life. You were being shown things, visited, taught. You wake up from certain ones not rested, but altered. Like something was worked on while you were under. Like you attended something real and came back changed, and the only evidence is a feeling in your body that you can't shake, and a knowing in your mind that you can't explain and wouldn't even know how to begin to justify. And some of these dreams, you remember them years later. Not in the fuzzy, half-remembered way of normal dreams. In the fully intact, every detail still present, still weighted, still meaning something way. Like they happened yesterday, like they're still happening somewhere. And then, there are the specific ones. The ones you wake up from and you already know before you're even fully conscious. Before you've had a single thought, you know that what you just saw is going to happen. Maybe not the exact image, maybe not the literal scene, but the essence of it, the texture, the emotional truth of the thing. And when it arrives in your waking life, days later, weeks later, sometimes months, you feel two things simultaneously: recognition, and underneath the recognition, this quiet, low grade alarm. Because if that's real, if that's genuinely, actually, consistently real, then what does it mean about time? About what's already written? About how much of what you call choice is actually choice? About whether the future is something that happens to you or something that's already there, waiting for you to arrive at it? That's not a rhetorical question. That's something you actually lie awake with, turning it over, sitting with the implications, finding that you can't think your way to the bottom of it, and having to put it down until it comes back again. What the night showed you, yeah. Okay, this one is sitting right on top of the dream energy, and I'm getting that for some of you, the dreams have become more real than the days. More weighted, more meaningful. The ones that matter, you don't forget them. They stay. Months later, years later, they're still there, still vivid, still pointing at something, still carrying information you haven't fully decoded yet. You seem like you're just tired to people who notice you looking worn. You're not just tired. You're working while you sleep. You're receiving while you sleep. There's a difference, and it is not nothing. It is not your nervous system being dramatic, or your brain misfiring, or your imagination being overactive. Something is switched on in you that most people have never activated. And it's switched on through everything that broke your old way of seeing, through the things that forced you into a bigger picture. Because the smaller one stopped being able to hold what was happening to you. What the breaking built okay. So, this one. This is the restructuring card, and I want to take my time with this one because I think this is the one that matters most for where you are right now. There was a moment, maybe more than one moment, where your sense of who you were completely gave way, where the story you'd been telling about yourself, the "this is who I am, this is what I'm worth, this is how the world works, this is what I can expect from people" story stopped holding. Where you looked at your own identity and found that it couldn't contain what was actually happening to you. And in that groundlessness, in that terrifying, falling, nothing to hold on to place, something bigger came through. And that's what's operating now. That's why you can hold two completely opposite things in your body at the same time without short circuiting. You can feel grief and gratitude together fully, completely, both of them at once, and one doesn't cancel the other. They coexist. They create something the other one alone couldn't create. You can be absolutely certain about a decision and completely detached from the outcome at the same time. You can love someone, clearly including the parts of them that are going to hurt you, and hold the full truth of them without flinching away from it. You seem contradictory to people watching from the outside. You seem like you can't make up your mind, or you don't know what you want, or you're sending mixed signals. You're not confused. You are comprehensive. You are holding the full picture in a world where everyone else is arguing about which half is real. That's not a flaw. That is a capacity. That is something you built by surviving things that required it. But here's the uncomfortable part, and I'm going to say it directly because I think you need direct right now. The old version of you, the ego, the story, the familiar grooves of who you thought you were didn't go quietly. It fought. It's probably still fighting sometimes. You probably have moments where you catch yourself sliding back into an old pattern in real time. You can see yourself doing it. You know better. You do it anyway. And afterward, there's this feeling, not quite guilt, but something adjacent to it, something sharper, like acting against what you know now has a cost it never used to have. Because you can't unknow things. You can't unsee what you've seen. The expansion is permanent. And sometimes that permanence feels like freedom, and sometimes it feels like a door that closed behind you that you can't go back through. You seem like you're struggling to people who catch you in those moments. You're not struggling. You're in negotiation. You're working something out that most people don't even know needs to be worked out. There's a difference. Between two selves, yeah. This, the negotiation. And what I'm getting here is that from the outside, this transition looks like withdrawal. Like you've become less accessible. People around you might say you've gotten quieter, more internal, less interested in the things that used to hold your attention. And you are. You have become less interested because you're not performing anymore. Not in the way you used to. The version of you that managed everyone else's comfort with your experience, that monitored how much of yourself was safe to show, that softened things and translated things, and made yourself easier to digest, that version is setting something down. Slowly, and it reads as distance from the outside and as relief from the inside. And both are true. You seem harder to reach. You're not harder to reach. You're just done spending energy on performances that cost you something real and returned nothing. The loneliness is real. I'm not going to minimize it or wrap it in something prettier than it is. Living somewhere the people closest to you haven't reached yet that has a genuine, daily, ongoing cost. And you have been paying it quietly, without complaint, without explanation. Because you've learned that explaining doesn't close the gap and sometimes widens it. You seem fine to everyone around you. You are not always fine. And that distance between how you appear and what you're actually carrying, that is its own kind of weight on top of everything else. But I need to say this, and I need you to actually hear it. You are not the only one here. Not in the way that sounds like a comfort someone says to make you feel better. In the literal sense. There are people watching this right now who have never said any of this out loud to a single person in their life, who tried to explain this exact experience to someone they trusted, and got the kind smile and went home and sat with it in the quiet, who feel like they're living a double life, the version that makes sense to the people around them, and the version that's actually happening underneath, who have stopped trying to explain because they've learned what it costs and what it doesn't return. That is not a small group. That group is enormous, and you have always been in it. You just didn't know it existed yet. The ones who are also here, this one. This is the collective. The people in the comments right now. The people who will find this video months from now at exactly the moment they need it. The people who have the same 2am experience of lying awake with something they can't name and can't put down and can't explain. The people who have had the same failed conversations with the same well, meaning people who gave them the same gentle smile. You are in that. You have always been in that. And the fact that you found this video today, yeah, that's not an accident either. You know it isn't. Okay, let me land this because here's what the cards are saying at the close of this reading, and I want to be exact about it. What you are going through is not a detour, not a malfunction, not a sign that something has gone wrong or that you need to be corrected or that you are too sensitive or too much or too something. What you are going through is an expansion that your system required in order to become what it's becoming. And it became it through the hard things, through the things that broke the smaller version of you open, through the experiences that made you too complicated for simple explanations and too aware for easy comfort. And what it's becoming, I don't have a clean word for this. I want to find one, and I can't. It's just more. More than what's expected of you. More than what's visible from the outside. More than what the people who love you most know how to hold yet. You seem like a lot to people who are still operating from the smaller picture. You're not a lot, you're just further. And the world is starting slowly, in ways you're probably already noticing to catch up to where you already are. The situations that fit. The people who don't need you to translate yourself for them. The moments where you don't have to manage the gap because there is no gap. Those are increasing. Slowly, but they're coming. What's already coming toward you, yeah. Movement, that's the last one, and it is movement. Something is actively shifting in the landscape of your life. Not as a reward for having been through hard things. Not as a coincidence. As alignment. You have been becoming something for a long time, and the world is beginning finally, actually beginning to reflect it back. People, situations, opportunities, things that feel like they were sized for you instead of things you have to reshape yourself to fit into. That feeling of things finally clicking into place instead of you always being the one doing the adjusting. That's what's coming. That's what this card is pointing at. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are not lost inside something that has no end. You are ahead. And I know that is a strange thing to be. I know it is a specific and quiet and sometimes very lonely thing to be. But you are. You have been. For longer than you probably even realize. And the fact that you're still here, that you watched this whole way through, is its own kind of answer. You already knew. You've always already known.